Good morning, dear students. Today we will learn about the our histories chapter number 2. The name of chapter is Emergence of New Kingdom between 700 to 1200 Common Era. So student, in this chapter we will learn about the kingdoms that emerged during the early medieval period in the north and south of India. We learn about the tripartite struggle and the strategic importance of Kannauj, and also we learn about the Turkish invaders, about the most powerful kingdom in the south, the Cholas and its administrations. Okay, so let's start this chapter. So student, during this period 700 to 1200 central common era denoted as the early medieval period. This period is denoted as the early medieval period. A number of powerful regional kingdoms arose in North India, the Deccan, and South India. All these kingdoms had the desire to build an empire and therefore continually fought with each other to gain control over their neighboring territories. So, students, this period 700 to 1200 CE is denoted as early medieval period, and in this period many powerful regional kingdom arose in North India as well as South India. Okay, and all these kingdoms means kingdoms, kings of now North India, kings of South India had desired to build an empire. So what they do, they always fought with each other to gain control over their neighboring territories. Okay, so here on first page you can see a timeline is given, and this timeline is denoted all the activities of this period like 800 CE to 100 1100 period of tripartite struggles between Palas, Gujra, Parihars and Rashtrakutas. Okay, so here you can see that this period is tripartite struggle between the Pals, Gujjar, Parihars and Rashtrakutas, and in between in 850 CE emergence of Cholas, and 1000 to 1025 period 27 period of Mahmud Ghazni invention. Okay, and after that second battle of Tarain is first battle of Tarain fought in 1191 between Muhammad Ghori and Prithviraj Chauhan, and second battle of Tarain is 1192. So let's start. So first, rise of new kingdoms. So in the post Gupta periods, administrative officials were also granted land. These officials own fiscal and military obligations to the rulers. Land grants grew in number in the 7th century and become widespread throughout the country. Most part of the kingdom of all the major powers of western and central India included the territories under the control of such land officials, also known known as feudatories. Okay, so student, post Gupta period, when administrative official were also got land, means post Gupta period kings give the land to their administrative officers. Okay, and these officials all owned their own military obligation and fizzle to the ruler, and land granted grew in number numbers in the 7th century and become widespread. And this land grants, okay, this land grants in number is was started, you can say started after starting in 7th century, and after that it's widespread throughout the country, and the most part of the kingdom of all major powers. Okay, most part of kingdom of all major power of western and central India included the territories under the control of such land officials. Okay, so and these officials are called, yeah, or these officials are known as feudatories. However, the feudatories chief were eager to free themselves whenever there was an opportunity. Some of these feudatories struggled and rose to form new kingdom during the early medieval period. So student, this feudate these feudatories wanted to freedom, okay, wanted to freedom to that king. Okay, so they they try to themselves free, and after this struggle of these few feudatories, some new kingdoms also rose during the early medieval period. Means the founder of some kingdoms are feudatories. Okay, so for example, the Palas. Okay, the Palas were dominant in eastern India, where the Gujar Parihar dominated western India and the upper Gangetic Valley. Okay, the third major kingdom was that the Rashtrakutas, who controlled the Deccan and the territory in northern and southern India at different time. A number of Rajput kingdom also emerged during this period, and among them the Chauhans. Okay, Chauhans, or you can say Chahamanas, okay, were the most prominent. In the south, the Cholas surfaced as the most powerful kingdom and become known for a distinctive administrative structure and agrarian expansion. So, student, the Palas. Okay, so our India is divided into different rulers, or you can say in different kingdom. So Palas, so that Palas were dominant power in eastern India. Here you can say that here you can see the black portion, and this black portion indicated to Pala dynasty. Okay, while the Gujar and Parihar dominated western India and upper Gangetic Valley. So here you can see the Parihara dynasty and its area. And the third major kingdom was that the Rashtrakutas dynasty. So here you can see the Rashtrakutas dynasty, and this dynasty controlled the Deccan and territory in northern and southern India at different time. And this Rashtrakutas dynasty controlled both North India and South India, but different time. Okay, but different time, not together, and different time. Okay, a number of Rajput kingdom also emerged during this period, and among them the Chauhans were the most prominent. And Rajput kingdom also emerged this medieval period, and among these Rajput kingdoms, Chauhans were most powerful, or most dominant, prominent. Okay, in the south, the Cholas surface as the most powerful kingdom. And if you can ask, if you can see the South India, so in South India the Cholas, okay, the Cholas are the powerful kingdom, and it is become known for a distinct administrative primitive structure and agrarian expansion after some time. Okay, then the tripartite struggle. So basically, student, the tripartite, the meaning of tripartite is three. When three kingdom fought together for to control any region, so that type of struggle called tripartite struggle. And this tripartite struggle was happened to be power to be take the reason to take the control of region Kannauj. So all the ruling dynasties of the early medieval periods had their own areas of influence, but they often try to control other areas for more wealth. On such one such lucrative area was Kannauj in the Ganges Valley, which led to the tripartite struggle between the Palas, Gujjar Parihars, and Rashtrakutas. So, student, that time all the ruling dynasty had their own area of influence, but they often try to control other areas for more wealth. So, one such restricted area was Kannauj, and it in the Ganges Valley, and it leads to the tripartite struggle between them, between Palas, Gujjar Parihars, and Rashtrakutas. It is said that the main cause of this struggle was the desire to process the city of Kannauj, which was then a symbol of sovereignty. Okay, so it the reason behind the main cause of this struggle was to desire to possess the city of Kannauj. Okay, the city of Kannauj, which was then a symbol of sovereignty. This warfare was also control over the fertile region of the Gangetic Valley, because the Kannauj situated in Gangetic Valley, and that Gangetic Valley was very fertilized, that so that the ruler, the dynasty, want to control that Kannauj for this thing also. Another prime reason for their conflict was their desire to have control over the riches beyond their own territories, and other reason was that they want to control over the riches beyond their own territory. Means after their territory, they want to control more and more territory, and they always focused on that type of territory where who were rich. Okay, people of that territory were rich, and king of that territory were rich. So after controlling that territory, that region, the kingdom was also rich. This was possibly because the ruler needed huge amount of wealth to enhance their military power. They also tried to demonstrate their power and resources by building large temple. Let us learn about these three prominent kingdom. So student, this is also because the rulers needed huge amount of wealth. Okay, that's why they always wanted to for to catch or to capture a rich region. Okay, and they also try to demonstrate their power and resource by building large temple. That kingdoms always show their power and resource by building large temple. So here we can read about the three prominent kingdom in between the tripartite struggle was happened. So first one is the Gujra Pariharas. So the Gujra Pariharas, also known as the Pratihars. Okay, Pratihars, sorry, the Gujra Pratihars, also known as only Pratihars used their military skill and power to carve out a kingdom in western India. As a ruler, the Pratiharas came into prominent uh, prominence in the middle of the 8th century Common Era with their king Nagbhat I defended western India from the Arab incursion from Sindh to Rajasthan. So this Pratiharas dynasty used their military skill and power to carve out a kingdom in western India. Okay, and the ruler of Pratiharas come into prominent of the middle of 8th century. So they started this dynasty was started in the middle of 8th century when their king Nagbhat I, okay, their king Nagbhat I defended western India from the Arab incursion from Sindh to Rajasthan. So their territory was from Sindh to Rajasthan. He was able to leave his successor a powerful principality comparing Malwa and parts of and the Nagbhat I was able to leave his successor a powerful principality comparing to Malwa and parts of Rajputana and Gujarat. The Pratihar dynasty expanded and flourished the most under the rule of Mihir Bhoj, and it is between 836 to 885 Common Era, and his successor Mahendrapal 1890 to 910 Common Era. The territory of the kingdom expanded to Bengal in the east and to Punjab, Awadh, Malwa and Gujarat in the west. So student, that Gujar Pratihars dynasty, also known as Pratihars, it is founded by their king. It is founded by middle of the 8th century when their king Nagbhat I defended the western India. Okay, defended the western India from the Arab incursions from Sindh to Rajasthan. Okay, and he leave that Nagbhat I leave a powerful principality in comparison to Malwa and other part of Rajasthan, Rajputana and Gujarat, and the Pratihar dynasty expanded and flourished the most under the rule of Mihir Bhoj and his successor Mahendrapal. So you can say the important kings of this uh, dynasty dynasty are: first, its founder, you can say its founder or first king of Nagabhatta I, second one is Mihir Bhoj, and third one is Mahendrapal. These three kings are famous kings from Pratihars dynasty, and they expand the territory of this kingdom was expanded to Bengal in the east, and from Bengal to Punjab, and Awadh to Malwa and Gujarat. Okay, and Gujarat in the west, means the influence area of this dynasty were Punjab, in east Bengal, north Punjab, Awadh, Malwa, and in west Gujarat. So here you can see the Pratiharas and Gujarat dynasties ruling area. Okay, so the yellow color indicated that Gujar Pratihars dynasties ruling area. Okay, so this area is denoted to Gujar Pratihar dynasty. Next we have second dynasty is the Palas. So another important kingdom of the period was the Palas. Okay, the Pala kingdom was founded by Gopala in 750 CE. It is believed that he was elected as the king by the nobles to end the regional anarchy. Okay, so student, that Pal's dynasty start, or Pal's kingdom was founded by Gopala in 750 CE, and it is believed that Gopala was elected as the king by the nobles to end the regional anarchy. It seems that he consolidated his authority over almost the whole of Bengal and part of Bihar. Gopala was an ardent Buddhist and had built the monastery at Odhantapuri in Bihar, and this Gopala follow the Buddhism, and he had built a monastery at Odantapuri in Bihar, and his successor, Gopala's successor Dharampala, from 770 to 810 CE, expanded the kingdom and was able to control Kannauj for some time. Okay, Devapala, one of the most powerful Pal rulers, led raids in the north, Deccan, and southern part of India peninsula. As a Buddhist, he founded the famous Mahavihara of Vikramshila near Bhagalpur. He also patronized Haribhadra, a great Buddhist author. Rampala, the last important ruler, extended control till Pragyajotishpura, part of Odisha and part of modern Nepal. So, student, this Pala dynasty was founded by Gopala in 750 CE, and it is believed that Gopala was elected by the noble people to end the regional anarchy, and Gopala was the Buddhist. Okay, and Gopala controlled the whole Bengal and some part of Bihar. Gopala was an Buddhist, and he had built a monastery at Odantapuri in Bihar, and Gopala's successor Dharampala extended the, the Pal kingdom, and he was able to control Kannauj for some time. Okay, so after Dharampala, Devpala was the most powerful Pal rulers. He led raids in the north, Deccan, and southern part of Indian Peninsula. So this Devpala was the most important or most powerful king from Pal dynasty. He ruled in the north, Deccan, and southern part of Indian Peninsula. As a Buddhist, Devpala founded the famous Mahabihar of Vikramshila near Bhagalpur. He also produced Haribhadra, a great Buddhist author. Rampala, the last important ruler, extend control till Assam and part of Odisha and part of modern Nepal. So basically, if we can see that Pala dynasty, so it is founded by Gopala, and Gopala, Devpala, Rampala were some important ruler of Pala dynasty. Okay, next we have, and if we can see its ruling area or its influencing area, so it is from Assam to Odisha to modern Nepal to Kannauj. Okay, they rule Kannauj also, but for some time. Next we have Rashtrakutas. So you can see the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan were the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan were feudatory of the Chalukya of Karnataka. However, Danti Durga overthrew the Chanukya Kirtivarman in Deccan and founded the Rashtrakuta kingdom. So this Rashtrakuta kingdom in the Deccan were feuded of the Chalukya of Karnataka. Okay, and however that Danti Durga, a feuder overthrew Chalukya king Kirtivarman, okay, in Deccan, and then he founded the Rashtrakutas kingdom. So Danti Durga was the founder of Rashtrakuta kingdom. The Rashtrakuta territory reached its zenith under their able ruler Amogh Varsha. Okay, so its second king was, or you can say second important king was Amogh Varsha. Okay, and he expanded, Amogh Varsha expanded the territory of Rashtrakutas. Okay, he Amogh Varsha set up a new capital at Manakyaketa or Malkhed. Okay, during his reign, Baroch became the best part of region of the region. So during Amogh Varsha set up a new capital at Manakyaketa, or we can say Malkhed. Okay, and during Amogh Varsha region, Baroch became the best part of his region. The Rashtrakuta territory spread from Malwa in the west to Kanchi in the southeast. So here you can see the Rashtrakuta. The Rashtrakutas the dynasty. So you can see here that it's spread from Malwa in the west. Okay, Malwa in the west. So here you can see this one is Malwa in the west to Kanchi in the southeast. So from Malwa to Kanchi. Okay, the ruler of this dynasty were great patrons of art and architecture. This is evident by the beautiful temples built by the rulers at Ellora Elephanta caves. Krishnavan built the Kailash temple at Ellora. So student, the ruler of this dynasty was art lover. You can see they were art lover. So they love to art and architect. They promote architect and art. So and to prove this, they built beautiful temple. Okay, in Ellora and Elephanta cave. Also Krishna one built the Kailash temple at Ellora. So student, this Rashtrakutas dynasty is founded by Danti Durga, and this Danti Durga was a feudatory. Okay, who however he overthrew the Chalukya king Kirtivarman in Deccan, and then he founded Rashtrakuta kingdom. The Rashtrakuta territory reached its zenith under their able ruler Amogh Varsha. Okay, Amogh Varsha. Rashtrakutas territory growing under the guidance of, or under the under the guidance of Amogh Varsha, or under the control of Amogh Varsha. Amogh Varsha set up a new capital at Manyaketa or Malkhed, and during Amogh Varsha's period, Baroch become the best port in the region. Okay, Baroch is become a best port of the region. The Rashtrakuta territory spread from Malwa in the west to Kanchi in the southeast. Okay, southeast, and then Kanchipuram. You can see Kanchipuram in this map. Here this one is Kanchipuram, this one is Malwa. Okay, so the ruler of this dynasty were great patrons of art and architecture, means they promote art and architecture. This is evident by the beautiful temples built by the rulers of at Ellora and Elephanta cave, and How to we can say that the Rashtrakuta, the rulers of Rashtrakuta dynasty were promote art and architect. So we can say it because the rulers of Rashtrakuta dynasty made very beautiful temple at Ellora and Elephanta cave, and also a Kailash temple at Ellora built by Krishnavan, who was the Rashtrakutas king. So these evidence prove that Rashtrakutas kings was art and agriculture promoted. They promote art and agriculture. So students, I hope you all understand today's topic. But if you have any doubt, any query, so you can free feel to ask. And tomorrow we will discuss the Turkish invention. So I request to you all, please read this so you can understand these things easily. So this is enough for today. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.